and my journey is quite a bit longer than theirs. So during this, I'd like to explain how the initiatives of the Patient and Whaanau Centred Care Program can be implemented, which would greatly improve the experience for our patients in Whaanau. I myself have been a patient here on a number of occasions. Today, I wish to share my journey. There are 5 areas of the Patient and Whaanau Centred Program that focus on. I will comment on each of these as they relate to my experience. My journey began back in 2011 on the evening of April 30th. Having fun at my partner's 30th, little did I know my Crohn's disease was like a volcano, ready to erupt. I became sick over the evening to the point where I found myself on my bedroom floor early the next morning. This is after many hours of silently suffering. At this point, I yelled for help and the ambo was called. From here on, everything becomes vague. One of the best days of my life turned into the worst. My man had proposed that evening, getting the for better or worse the very next day. On reaching the ED, I've now pretty much lost awareness of my surroundings. Prior to surgery, I was stabilised and prepped in the ICU. During surgery, it became evident I had a perforated bowel, sepsis and toxic shock in all of my 4 quadrants of my belly. After surgery, I was in ICU. This is where my fiance and family were advised of the full extent of my surgery and just how critical I was. Obviously, I wasn't conscious, so I have no idea that I'm hanging on for dear life, have an ileostomy or a full incision down my stomach full of staples. Over the next few days, I have ups and downs, still on a ventilator, unable to talk. Barely conscious, so still really unaware of what's happening, what has happened, or even where I am. During this critical stage of my care, my fiancé and partners were my sole decision makers outside the hospital staff. Hence, I strongly believe in the Family and Whaanau as Partners in Care philosophy that Counties Manukau is currently in the process of implementing. My family were advised of key decisions that had to be made on my behalf, what could happen, and explained the realities of possible outcomes for the first few days, including death. This involvement and communication in the initial phase was critical to my family's well-being and engagement with the hospital. They also tried to anticipate the needs of carers, helping prepare for what they knew would be a long haul. 2 program themes, improving face-to-face engagement and keeping me and my family informed, were clearly in action, and the staff did this well. Given this important discussion at such an early age, when I can't speak for myself, was handled so well, it has since given me an insight into what could be done much more effectively across the other sectors. The PWCC program reinforces the need for engagement and involvement with the whānau and key carers. Intensive care a few days later, I was given a whiteboard to write on. Well, that's what I thought. Photos later shown to me reveal nothing of the sort, more like the drawings of a preschooler, rather than the conversation I had written. This highlights just how different the experiences for the patient and the whānau. If you were to ask my family and friends, they all have different accounts. Also, due to the nature of events, I have no memory of anything other than drug-induced nightmares for the first 7 to 10 days. A week they will never forget, but one I will never remember. HDU. Having a nurse at your bedside 24/7 is a comforting factor. My care was impeccable. They would wash my hair and help me start to understand the past 10 days. I now have to begin my recovery. Learn to accept my ileostomy, squeak, and the fact that because of this new feature and my survival tattoo, I was alive. Yet I was yet to discover that I'd lost all fitness and stamina. My body had been in survival mode and even the reserve tank was empty. I began to realise just how reliant I was on my team to do absolutely anything. One of the toughest times was having my wound break down and the decision to remove all staples. This procedure happened late at night with none of my family present. Being able to find them immediately after was a major help in dealing with this development. But if they'd been there for me overnight, it would have been better. That's why I'm so supportive of the change in your visiting hours. Still in the drug-induced days, I get a glimpse of my injuries and ileostomy. What an eye-opener, seeing your insides. Week 2 into my stay, and I'm now only beginning to understand why I'm here. My intro to the ward was a nightmare. I'm now in a room, I don't know where I am. I'm alone, my roommate has the curtain closed, so all I can see is the wall in front of me. I was introduced to my nurse, rehooked to all my 8 gadgets, and advised where the bell for help was. 5 minutes in, I'd lost it in the sheet. Still heavily medicated, I was lost, frightened, and alone. I'd gone from a nurse at my bedside to one at the end of a bell that I could not find. That was one of the longest, scariest nights ever. In the morning, things came to light more. I was assigned a senior nurse, and she began to explain how the ward worked, where I was, and how they would help. This face-to-face engagement and keeping me informed of what happened and what lay ahead was important to help me cope. During my stay on the ward, all info was directed my way. However, I was still on another planet, unable to process or remember any info. Had this been directed at my family and carers as well, then we would have all had this true story. Also, being able to hear handover just outside your door was unnerving. You could hear things you didn't always understand or need to know, but it makes you feel like it's happening to you and not with you. I think the partnership between patients and their family and Whaanau as care partners and the clinical teams is so important. So please talk to your patients and partners in care at the bedside. Over the next weeks, I was still in a delicate way, barely able to walk or do anything for myself. The positive attitude and human touch that all the health professionals showed me was so critical. They would help me to see the small miracles. I would still endure some really low times and setbacks when I wished things were different. At no time was it the fault of my medical teams that I was in this predicament. But still, I found things frustrating. Unsure, who was in charge? Who do I trust? I really battled to understand how everybody fit in. If you include the PAR teams, pain management, infectious diseases, physio, psych, registrars, on-call, HCAs, I'm overwhelmed. For me, it became a case of who do I perceive as looking after my best interests? Who do I relate to, and who is seeing me as a person? I know that some areas in the hospital already lead the way from a patient-centred care perspective, and I'm positive the Patient and Whaanau Centred program will see this great work rolled out across the DHB. I quickly worked out a way to get visitors, is to give the nurses a symptom for a AAA. Your room is rapidly filled with about 20 people. This was a time when staff were brilliant at communicating, which made the process bearable. If only this communication happened for all patients all the time and not just when there was a AAA. Not long after this, we were informed by the ward staff that I was to be discharged. False alarm. It is now that we realise the PAR team had been monitoring me too, as they advised us there was no way I was going anywhere for at least another few weeks. So sometimes the communication broke down between the various teams involved in my care. One would give one message, the other would be completely different. This worried me because I wondered if they knew what they were doing. Now 16 days into my adventure, I'm introduced to an ex-patient. She is my age, gender, and living with a permanent ileostomy. She helped me see everything was okay, some adjustments, and things could slowly go back to normal. This made me feel that people were caring about my full well-being, realising the emotional toll that this was all taking. I'm so supportive of the patient and family advisors who work in partnership with the clinical team, the patient, and the partners in care. I'm pleased that this organisation is considering having more of these in the future. We just need more. Now 3 weeks into my stay, I was given a PICC line. Well, if only I had one much earlier. My arms are now black and blue. Nurses, doctors can't get bloods or lower changes done. My veins have shut down. I'm now up to 5 fluid changes a day as the strong meds were killing the veins after each round. This extra pain and suffering could have been avoided with more communication across the teams. Now showing signs of depression, my family were advised to take me out of the hospital grounds. Fortunately, we flew to wheelchair. This trip was great, but frightening. During the lead up to the next surgery, there were multiple complications, thus leading to many setbacks and again, a reality check of my condition. Balancing the need for the wound to be closed versus disturbing the delicate damaged tissue. I have absolute admiration for the number of things you have to balance. It is a bit of a juggling act. A key time when the PWCC initiative was really evident was on the morning of my second surgery, in which they would sew me back together again. Well, given last time I was on the table, I was on the edge of dying, petrified. I wanted to live. I had so much to live for. The nursing staff allowed me 2 key people to be at my bedside that morning whilst I waited for surgery. This time was invaluable as it gave me a sense of security and freed up the nursing staff to help others. My surgeon had advised an epidural for post-surgery, which I agreed to. He reminded me I had no recall of the first surgery. Well, what a relief. Man, I was in for a shock. I soon learned for real what it's like to have no abs and an incision right down my belly. It became apparent that we need abs for everything. From breathing, coughing, to sitting up. And please, don't tell me a joke, because laughing, that was the worst but best medicine of all. Humour became my coping mechanism. Hence, I aptly named my scar my survival tattoo and the ileostomy squeak. In the words of Forrest Gump, shit happens. Especially after an explosion of squeak. I cried and Mum laughed. Due to the length of my stay, I'm now getting to know all the nurses. Due to shifts, etc., I was cared for by most at some point. Social chit-chat between us during our daily routines of checkups and scans was a welcome distraction and broke barriers. The day after surgery, I was helped to walk to the doorway with the assistance of a physio and a walking frame. Since when did I go from 29 to 79 years old? Now the fun task of dressing changes. Not a welcome part of the day, usually after a shower. So your bandages were now wet and half off, and you were cold. Waiting some days for the doctor to check progress before being able to have it redressed. Hence, I'm now chained to my bed, unable to go anywhere. Communication between the ward team and the doctors would have helped in this situation. Small considerations can have a huge bearing on your mood. Given this all happened by about 10 a.m. One day I sat for 2 hours waiting and needed the bathroom again. But how? I realised that the hospital's prime objective is patient physical well-being, but it's the emotional well-being that enables you to cope with the full journey. Wearing your own PJs down the hallway. To me, it meant colour and my personality re-emerging. To nurses, it meant a milestone, as this requires less IV and support to do so. Also, reaching your own feet in the shower. After 3 weeks means freedom, a shower in peace and no spectators. I'm no longer so vulnerable either. The staff helped me see these minor things were actually achievements. Now, to escape the ward as I so desired. I have definite cabin fever. I need wheels, still too broken to escape unaided. Well, where is the wheelchair again? Ordered via the nurses' station, no go. Each visitor was sent on a search. So still, 5 days later, I'm losing the plot and no wheelchair. By this point, everyone is on the lookout. Until finally, Saturday night, a student nurse comes to my rescue. He nabs an orderly, wheeling one through the ward and hijacks it. So the highlight is now 29 years old, PJs and wheelchair, but free to go where? Fresh air at the main entrance with my own security nurse is my option. Adventure was great relief, but destination somewhat lacking. The need for a wheelchair remained an issue, as I'd be allowed to escape between IVs, but with a window of 2.5 hours daily, it was not always achievable. I was ready to go and no means to do so. In the end, we bought our own wheelchair. Lucky for me, we had the means, as the constant disappointment was depressing. Week 7. Now, after a trial run being home for the weekend, I am finally discharged into the care of my family, with the understanding more surgeries to follow. 3 days at home, readmission. Blood test issue. This readmission could have been avoided either with discharge papers more detailed or the GP more informed. Well, as luck would have it, a week later, on the way to an outpatient clinic, an elderly lady decided T-boning our car was a good idea. Must I add, she hit my side too. So needless to say, hi, I'm back again, but this time to a different ward. Well, what can I say? I definitely don't hear, hi, I'm your nurse. Not for at least an hour. By now you can imagine I have a fair idea of how things should go. Like intro. Also, please hook me up to my IVs. These might be helpful, but we've forgotten. The Patient and Whaanau Centre program is focused on face-to-face engagement, and AIDA is one of the tools I know staff have subsequently been trained in. I'm currently awaiting a scan, which I've had multiple so far, so I'm not scared of the test. My concern is what damage have I done internally to my latest surgery. All I wanted was my family to stay, however told on no uncertain terms could they. What a joke. This new ward was worlds apart from what my previous ward was like, yet it was only walls away. It was such a positive ward, all I wanted to do was go back there. Finally, third time lucky, home again. Now the stoma nurse visits and checks things over. Still trying to get things right with supplies, due to still healing. My individual needs for ileostomy supplies was paramount to my fragile self-esteem, and the insecurity of ill-fitting bags was not helpful. The next few months are purely recovery and minimal exercise and prep for the next surgery, to remove more diseased bowel. The next surgery was number 3. Big difference. I'm not at Middlemore. I'm having this surgery at MEC. MEC was good in the fact there was no ED process for admission. I had the same surgeon throughout my journey, so in that respect I had continuity of care. Some small things facility-wise were noticeable though. The building appeared closed after weekends and late nights due to the lighting only being left on in the wards. Gave you the feeling like you were cast aside. My surgeon was able to remove the diseased bowel and reconnect things. So goodbye squeak. What a welcome gift and no further surgery. I can now start the process of recovery again and gain the life back I'd put on hold. It was not till my first anniversary and seeing a hospital psychologist in an ICU visit that I realised that my expectations for recovery were still too ambitious. These visits were not instigated by the hospital, but by me seeking closure to this journey. They were invaluable. I owe my life to this organisation, so thank you. You are one big team. Well, after some great opportunities, I've now become a voluntary member of the Patient and Whaanau Centre Care Program and wish to help patients in Whaanau get the brilliant care that I receive 99% of the time. I have a passion for helping this organisation make this a more positive experience for people, even though they may be visiting us under what can be very trying and emotional times, whether a patient or care carer. Thank you.